Hey everyone, it's Yvonne Inglesos from the Eating Disorder Recovery Hub, and I just wanted to do my live today, which is going to be about the importance of anger for your recovery. Before I forget, don't forget to subscribe to our videos so you know when I go live, so you can pop on and ask me questions while I'm doing them so that you can get your answers straight away. But this topic is one of my favorite now to work on with people I'm mentoring when I run groups or retreats. It is one of the keys to recovery. Now, I have to be honest, when I had an eating disorder, I had no idea, and I mean no idea, that anger had anything to do with it, simply because I never identified as someone who was angry. So I didn't think, and people used to say to me, Yvonne, you're never angry. Now, what I came to understand was that I didn't appear angry to anybody else because I had the eating disorder happening in the background that was helping me to manage any feelings of frustration, anger, irritation. And I didn't actually know that the behaviors and the binging, the overexercising, all of the behaviors associated with eating disorders had to do with me containing, repressing, pushing away anger. So of course, it's not the only thing that the eating disorder was doing, but it was a massive thing, and I had no idea about that. Now, why is it important that you get to understand this? Why is it important that you know that anger is a key component to your recovery? Now, I've had people comment on the Facebook page saying, when I decreased my behaviors, I became really angry and hostile and I was not nice to be around. So, restricting or exercising or whatever it is actually helps me to be a nicer person. Well, what I'm going to say to you is, if you don't build your relationship with anger, so if you don't get to know what your frustrations and what is actually going on for you, so if you don't build that relationship and then learn how to actually process it in a healthy way, you'll continue to need the eating disorder behaviors. So it's actually one of the keys, learning to notice anger when you actually have it, and then to learn to tolerate it, to do some processing around it. And the more you can do that, the less you're actually going to need the behaviors. But let me first talk about a couple of things that keep people from knowing anger is related to eating disorders. Is that there is a hell of a lot of myths around anger, and these can often become our beliefs. So let me read them to you, and I'm going to read them to you from my book. I wrote this with my partner. Here it is, To Eat or Not to Eat. So it looks backwards there, but that's what it's called, To Eat or Not to Eat. And it's your guide to overcoming disordered eating. Now, some of the myths we've got in here, nice people don't get angry. So that's often one that keeps people from wanting to show anger. Anger is a bad feeling. If I get angry with someone or vice versa, then the relationship must end. Others should never feel angry towards me. It is someone else's responsibility to fix our feelings if we feel angry and they made us feel that way. If someone else is angry because we made them feel that way, then it's our responsibility to fix their feelings. Anger is a useless feeling. Anger is okay only when you can justify feeling this way. So these are just a few myths, but what I do know is that these myths are what keep people from actually acknowledging any frustration or anger that they have. Okay, now what happens with that is when, say, something happens and you have an irritation or a frustration or anger and you don't want to acknowledge it, you don't want to say, oh look, that frustrates me, or I feel frustrated because whatever the situation is. What happens is you try and push it down and try and ignore it, and what can happen unconsciously is that you start thinking about feeling fat, or you start getting obsessed with, food, your weight, that your clothes don't fit, and these thoughts become all-consuming. right? Rather than you actually acknowledging the irritation that might have happened. Say you had a disagreement with someone, or say a situation's happening at work and it really feels frustrating for you. And rather than acknowledge that, what happens is you try not to show it, or you try to be quiet and keep your feelings in, and not be rude and not come across as, you know, a bitch or whatever else comes to mind. And so what you do is you actually become obsessed with thinking about food. And so then your frustration turns inwards to yourself, because you start going, why can't I just stop this eating disorder stuff? Why can't I stop the behaviors? So what happens for people with eating disorders is they turn their anger in on themselves. Yes, turning it in on yourself means that then you look like you're doing okay to the rest of the world. You still come across as a nice person with a good heart and, you know, sweet and caring and all of that. But you have this eating disorder happening on the side that's actually you trying to manage and deal with this anger. Now, I've written a whole chapter on anger, so that's how important it is for recovery. And I talk about it a lot, and it's about giving permission. First and foremost, permission that you could feel anger. Because let's face it, shit happens in your life, and it's okay to feel angry at times. It's okay to acknowledge it. What's not okay is to, you know, lash out and go out and hit people, or and I think the opposite is true. It's not okay to continue using the behaviors towards yourself, because they're very aggressive. The behaviors themselves are aggressive in nature. So you're taking out all your anger on yourself rather than actually acknowledging that you feel frustrated or angry. So there's a direct link between the eating disorder behaviors and anger. Right? And it's really important to start giving yourself permission, start acknowledging when you do feel irritated, frustrated, and know that there's things, because you might go, well, look, nothing happened today that frustrated me, but I'm obsessed with food and I'm weighing myself and I just want to eat. I think of anger as being in a couple of buckets. Now, long-term anger. So say, for example, you grew up in a home where there were some things that were happening that weren't okay, or that you were abused or neglected or traumatized, and there's what I call long-term anger. So things you haven't acknowledged, but to keep yourself safe and to keep yourself feeling okay in the world, you've repressed them. Then there's the day-to-day anger, right? So something happens at work and you're frustrated, so that happens, and it taps into not just that day, but it taps into the anger that you've kept bottled up. And I see anger as being something that gets stuck in our body when we have an eating disorder. So it's almost like, if you can imagine in your tummy that there is a lot of anger and it's just stuck there as an energy source. So for people that binge eat, they want to just push it all down, get rid of it, get away from it. For people that restrict, they don't want to let any food in. So there's no room for food for those people, because the rage is enormous. And more often than not, people with eating disorders are scared, because they go, like, I think I might be really angry. Once they start to acknowledge this, they go, what am I going to do with these feelings? They're going to be too big. I'm too scared of them. It's safer to move away from them. And I'll keep talking about this, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about, just because I know how important it was to my own recovery. And I think it is one of the keys that keeps people stuck, because they think it's not appropriate. We're told anger is not an appropriate feeling. The problem with anger is that when we hold on to it, it's killing us. It's literally, with all the behaviors, all the things that happen inside of our bodies, you know, whether we're restricting, we're binging, we're purging, we're over-exercising, whatever the behaviors, the more you contain and keep that anger inside of you and try and manage it with eating disorder behaviors, the tougher it is to sort of release it. So start with permission. Just first and foremost, start with giving yourself permission. And I'm going to keep doing lives about this one, because it's a tough one for people with eating disorders. I know if you'd told me there's a lot of anger inside of you, I would have thought, no, I don't think so, because the eating disorder behavior was actually helping me manage it, and I had no idea that that's what it was doing. So I'm going to leave it there for the moment. I'd love to hear your comments. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Can you actually tell that there's anger and frustration you're trying to keep away from, that you're trying to numb out from? And this is a big one for binge eaters because they really want to keep away from it. They often want to be seen to be, you know, getting along with people and people pleasing and not to rock the boat too much. And so we build it all up inside of us. So permission, that's all I'm asking you to consider at the moment. And I'll talk more about how I built my relationship with anger. And you can find out more in our book. You can get it on the Be Free Academy website if you did want to check that out, because lots of people love this book because it's quite simple to follow. So I look forward to tomorrow's live. Bye.